good answers, to be quite honest. And that's why I thought it was so important that we go across the state to listen. And what I heard really, on both sides of this, is that there's a lot of fear on both sides. Fear for the communities, the individuals in those communities, that all too often interactions can have certain final conclusions that we can't return from. There's fear for those individuals and those interactions with law enforcement as well as their families. And then also on the law enforcement side, we heard from several individuals on the law enforcement side that acknowledge the fear that law enforcement has in their interactions with the community. That they never intend for certain of these interactions to end the way that they do, but there's certain fear in every interaction. And I think our challenge is that we've got to find a way to acknowledge this fear, and I think find some way to move us to a place of respect and understanding as a result of that. So we've got to work ahead of us. Thanks for your support of this.
Yeah, when you think about it, I mean, again, if you put yourself in the shoes of a community activist that has felt, that they've been in danger, nobody wants that. Nobody wants a young son or daughter to, like the chief mentioned, the 12-year-old in Cleveland. I mean, it's just tragedy all the way around. At the same time, these officers, they got kids at home, and and they go into a dangerous situation, and they got to get home and be a dad, So it's tough. It's tough. Bishop, I think you're important for every one of these sessions. I think you ought to start every one of these sessions with a prayer that people will understand one another, reach out to one another. Nothing wrong with having a bunch of little private meetings off in the corner either, right, Alicia, where you talk to Amy, Amy talks to you. I mean, just get to, this is really important that we kind of are together as a group. And it takes a lot of good conversation. Have lunch. Whatever. Get to know one another. Yes, sir. Sheriff.
As everyone else said, thank you for the composition of this task force as well. It represents across the state of Ohio and all the vested interests. Of course, I'm representing the training portion of it as the chairperson of the training commission. I think as we work through our work session, we'll find out that there's a lot of training opportunities, a lot of training that we put into our peace officers. Every peace officer in the state of Ohio, the day that they are given their certificate of completion, it's equal across the board. What happens when they go home to their agencies? That's maybe that we need to start addressing some of those issues. Perhaps we have, as a state, tried to address those issues with continued professional training for all peace officers. We don't need to reinvent the wheel in that regard, because I think we've got some room to grow. That just some action, perhaps on your part, can make that come to fruition. One of the issues that I would like to address, or at least bring to the table, and haven't heard a lot about, as far as the community relations, is our sunshine law. It's designed to put a lot of light on what we are doing as public officials. And I think universally we need to address some issues on how we're putting information out to our citizens. We're not doing a good job. It's obvious the job we've done so far has not been adequate. And I think we need to look at some things that law enforcement agencies across the state, we need a best practice on how they're delivering their information to the citizens of the state of Ohio, to their constituents within their own jurisdictions. I have some recommendations I'll be sharing with the group from a law enforcement perspective of releasing information and how we can do that a little more effectively and meaningfully.
That sort of gets to what I think Alicia is talking about, which is the training plus something beyond the training, where you've better communication, better ability to explain what you're trying to do, what the challenges are. I think that's where you're driving on this, which is, I've got to tell you that it's inevitable that whatever comes out of this group, there are going to be community activists who are going to say, this was ridiculous. And you're going to have law enforcement that's going to say, what are they talking? They don't have a clue, okay? It's inevitable. So the question is, the middle is where we want to be. You're never going to satisfy everybody in this process, and we shouldn't try. Try to communicate with them, but there's always going to be people out here, am I right, officer, on one side or the other, that are just, they're not going to buy in. But the more we work it, the better the recommendations are, the more unified we are, and what you really want to do is move people to the extremes where they don't have credibility in the community.
Governor?
Yeah.
If I may say, I think this is the most serious issue I've ever been a part of in my entire life. And I am grateful that I'm a part of it. I pray for you every day too, by the way. But I think the message of faith-based is extremely important, but it's the unchurched we've got to get to as well. And we've got to figure that part out. And it's an education concern for me. I think that there's such diversity. And this is bigger than I ever thought. Until we went around the state, I didn't realize that the differences are so strong. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And it's amazing. We've got a lot of work to do. And I think that if people want something snap done overnight, I don't think that's the case. This is something that I would suggest that we continue doing for a long time. Obviously, we get our report done, we make our suggestions, legislative or executive action, or however we do it, or executive order. But I think we need to hang around and still keep this going. We're going to need time to heal some of these wounds, because again, I can't get over the educational necessity for us to be successful. We've got to prove to these people we can improve. I used to tell my folks, what you need in this group is a coach that won't let people leave the room until we're all on the same page.
That's good.
Just as an idea.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just, coaching.
Yeah.
But I'm worried about, I mean, the faith-based community will take care of a lot of this. They will. They'll do a great job. I know that. I just know that it's big.
Oh, it's got to, absolutely. That's those community activists that are going to have to be touched in this, and the law enforcement in our smaller communities are going to have to be recruited through this whole thing. Cliff, there are a lot of people that have been praying for you after you decided to start your son at quarterback over Ben Roethlisberger. It's true. We pray for you. Those kinds of decisions.
He's got a good contract right now. He's doing all right.
Anything else? Well, let's see where we can help, see where we can get to. And if we have to continue, come up with some recommendations, and then we think that we need to take another step or whatever we need to do to get this done. Do you understand what my interest is? I only have one interest. I want the people of the state to be safe, feel secure, have opportunity, not be discriminated against, and have a peaceful and moving forward society. That's why I did this. I was glad that the three ladies came to see me about this, but at the end of the day, I got no interest other than the people of the state. No preconceived notion of all that needs to be done, but I know it needs to be done. So God bless you, and as my friend said the other day, I'll be back.